Alright, so I built this compound setup. Bradley from Savage Fabrications redid the specs on my HX35, made the tolerance tighter for compounds, and then I picked this, you call it the Super Mick Awesome, but it's a 72, I can't remember what he says, either 72 by 73 or is it 72 by 74 with a 1.27 open housing. And so got that all set up. Made this little support bracket. It sits on the back of this flange. Got some extra long bolts so I can at least bolt it, and it runs down. There, I got one bolt. I had to make excuse me. I had to extend the bolt length, but I got one bolt there where my engine mount is, and then there is some random bolt. I don't know if I can get this thing to get through. Oh, there we go. There's the other bolt there. And then I cut and made a spacer so it sat flush there. And then over here I have a dual drain thing, right? No idea if you guys could see this or not. Right there, that block right there. So that block pushes into your oil drain for your factory turbo, and then it allows you to run 2 drain lines off of that one. And then I got one line coming up here, and then the other line is a severe pain in the butthole. That line goes up behind there. It goes up there. Almost looks like it might be leaking. And then yeah, there's light. And then my oil drain. So once it connects to there, then my oil drain makes a funky little jog, and I had to trim away my manifold. No idea if I can get y'all in here to see this. Maybe. Okay, right there. I don't know if it'll focus, but right there is a little cutout I made so it would fit. So it takes like a little S-turn. That's the drain on the HX35. And then I did a 3-inch, heat wrapped it, made it come out, curve over here, my flange, got this mounted up. I'm using some 6AN lines, running 2 ports down there to my oil filter housing, and then I double wrapped this. Like right now I can touch and hold it. I was out driving, but I don't know how hot it would be like if I immediately stopped driving and then put my hand on it or run it with a temperature gun. And then down here, so I bought a 4-inch down pipe. All this here is 4-inch. So I bought a 4-inch down pipe and then squeezed it on through here. I had to cut some sections out of it and straighten it out a little bit, and then re-weld a section or 2 in. Then once it hits down there in the transmission, you can see that right there where that little hanger is. Right there it goes a 5-inch. I may use that hanger, may not, but and then I put a clamp there so that I can like at least take this off and work on it if I need to. So it makes it a little bit more user-friendly. So this S piece will just, this whole S piece here will just slide out of here with a little turn. So that made that nice. And then, yeah. And then I also had, so I couldn't use my original charge pipe thing. So I had a guy machine that piece right there that my finger's pointing at. That piece there is a part I had one of my friends machine for me. So that V-band flange mates to the turbo, and then I have a angled piece here, comes down, takes a curve around the support bar, and then down into my intake, or charge pipe, I should say. This has a little funky angle to it. Very close, but it works. And then I did also redo my tappet cover, or whatever. I got, for this setup, I have power-driven diesel jet nozzles, stage 2 jet nozzles, and I do like the way they run. I think they run better than like your standard 5x14s. It runs cleaner. Where I originally had my setup on my AFC housing set 2, I mean, this thing barely smoked, and originally it would smoke like a pig. But so I bumped the fuel up in it, and it handles it very well. Obviously, with compound, you're gonna be able to put a little bit more fuel through it, and it'll clean up better. But I do like the way the jet nozzles run. So I got those in. Those are rated for about 650 horse. I also have a power-driven diesel ported towing head, so it flows a little bit better. 65-pound conical valve springs. Eventually, I would like to go to my valve cover, change out my valve covers to a billet aluminum. It also has a cap on it because it makes a pain in the butt filling this up, because you gotta take that off and then slow pour it. Takes a little bit. And then a DPS high flow exhaust manifold that does actually make a difference. I do like the way it runs. And then also have a bump to 18 degrees of timing. Also forgot to mention this, the one thing I did do is I took this down and I had a guy TIG weld it because it needed to be flush without a bead, because it sits all the way up into here. It sits pretty deep into these boots. So I didn't want like a little weld bump on it, so it's nice and smooth right now. So that made that nice. But yeah, 65-pound conical valve springs, heavy duty push rods, camshaft retainer, KDP pin fixed, all that. Yeah, also ran this little, I don't know if you can see that very well, but down in there, so I have my, so I had to flip my manifold over to get all this to work, but that's my drive pressure line that comes up, sits there, and then my EGTs. But what I have here, so you can see down there, the one on the left is my EGTs, and the one on the right is my exhaust pressure. I have 2 ports, that little thread-in ports, but I'll come down here. I got my line on the back side of this here, and then it runs up to the bottom of my manifold there, or between those slots in the manifold. So that made that nice. 0.024 delivery valves from power driven diesel, and 4K governor spring kit, and also ARPs for 425s. But yeah, so that is the setup, and it runs really well. I do like it. It's a good runner. It does make some power. My clutch is rated for 580, and I tried going for a 4th gear burnout, but my clutch spun. So it doesn't like over 580 roughly, give take. So, but it runs good below that. So I don't plan on changing it until I really need to, because I threw that in 2 years ago. I don't really feel like pulling it all out to do another clutch. But yeah, so that's that. And then just got a couple gauges set up in here. On my column, I figured it was best to run my exhaust pressure and my boost pressure very close so I can watch the two. It runs about like a 1-to-1 in the low end. Once you start hitting like 2,000 RPMs, you're looking at about 1-to-2. And then once you get up past that to like 25, I think roughly RPMs, it turns into like a 1-to-4 ratio. But it's not bad. I blipped the throttle and had exhaust pressure up to 78, and my boost pressure was at 55. So whatever that would math out to be, I think it's like a 1.4 to 1 or something like that. Anyways, exhaust temp. And then over here, 2 gauges, and I need to get stickers down here, but this one doesn't read right now. I don't have my key in, but I just turn it on for the sake of it. So this one reads my ambient air temperature going to the motor, fuel pressure, oil temp, which I think I might need to relocate that because I don't think it's reading correctly. Because the oil's not flowing through, it's at a dead still. So I might need to change that. And then this one would be on oil pressure. So that's that. And then my manual fuel shut off. And my hot idle that I installed myself. Everything is pretty much all done by myself. Yeah, it's a good runner. And if anybody's wondering, even though I'm running already up at about, I don't remember now, it was 3,200, something like that. Yeah. So the one problem I have, like, I don't know, it's not really a problem. It's not a problem because I have it set up for more sort for towing, not racing. With that being said, I probably could have gained more out of it if I went with a street racing ported towing head, or ported street racing head from power driven diesel instead of ported towing head. But my goal is to be able to throw some weight on it and have that low end torque to be able to haul stuff. So that's why you'll see me, like in the video, I could have been accelerating faster, but the only thing that's holding me back are the 65-pound conical valve springs. Yes, they will hold. I think it was up to 4,500 RPMs or 4,000 RPMs, one of the two. But when I start getting up high into the RPMs, my drive pressure starts, the ratio between boost and drive starts, like I was saying, is when I get higher into the RPMs, it turns into like a 1.4. And so, like, I had to back out of my throttle Otherwise, I'm pushing more than my valve springs can handle. So that's really the only limiting factor of it. I mean, between that and not wanting to blow a head gasket. But if I had gone with, you know, fire ring or O-ringed and 625 ARPs and like a 110 valve spring instead of 65, then, you know, I could have laid into it harder. But it all depends on how you want to get it set up. For me, I mean, it runs very well. It has very good low end torque. I mean, I can make like 20 psi at 1200 RPMs, so that's really where I want my power output, is in that lower range. Because like with the 5-speed, with that gap from 3rd to 4th, you know, you gotta wrap it up really good. But then when you go to shift, now you're down in the low RPM range. And my single turbo I had originally, I was losing boost because my shift point would hit me like at 1500 RPMs and it didn't spool up till 1600 RPMs. So then I was like really dogging it, trying to get it to catch back up, which is, I mean, the turbo did do well once it lit up, but it didn't do what I wanted to do with it. It was a really good turbo. It was a 63 by 68 by 9. I had the 9 cm housing put on it by Savage Fabrications. I mean, it was an awesome turbo. You know, if I was just hot rodding around, I wouldn't have an issue with having that turbo. But when I go to throw something behind it, it just kind of makes it hard to pull something, you know. So that was kind of the reason why I traded that turbo for the larger turbo that I got now for my compound setup, and then I went back to my HX35. So that was kind of the reason why I did that. But to each their own. I like the build. I think it runs good. Definitely keeps me cool.